All right. Hey, everybody. This is Ryan McClanahan with historythroughcards.com. Hope you're all doing very well today. So, I have a live here with Victor, the rookie card specialist, and Bobby Burrell. And I thought that I would love to get these guys on today to discuss a few things in the hobby. And guys, how are you guys doing?
Doing good, Ryan. Thanks, man. Thanks for having me on. Always nice to do a show with you and the Bobby Burrell, and glad to be here. Thanks for the invite.
Hey, you're welcome. Bobby, how's everything going?
Yeah, keeping busy always. The hobby will keep you busy if you let it.
Oh, 100%, 100%.
Hmm.
There's always something new going on, and today, was checking out Victor's video on gambling versus collecting, and I wanted to get both your thoughts on that and several other things. Um, so between the both of you guys, what is the difference between I guess the um, gambling versus collecting these days? And what was it in the 1980s?
$50. That's the difference. No, uh, back in the day, I would say it's the same scenario as it was back then. It's just the monetary values have increased dramatically. The cards have increased in value. Now they're specifically made to be valued at high sums of money. So the gambling creeps in a little bit more because you could sell a card back in those days, and you can maybe buy a motorcycle or something. Now today you can buy a house and an SUV and everything else just by winning, right? So winning the lottery of hitting that right card, and I see it. They did some changes actually, Victor. Your recent video, you talked about the new Tops product that was coming out, the rookie card, that red issue. If you
Mhm.
want to expand a little on that here, that would be great, and relate it to the whatever they're doing. I think they're trying to
Yeah.
change. They're just, well, I'll let you go.
Well, yeah, my video dealt with just feedback that I was hearing from others. I guess you can say in the hobby. It's a fine line that really deals with the morality of people and kind of their own convictions. And I think that's where it really gets hairy, where some people may have been raised with a mindset that says gambling is wrong, and there's others that are a little bit more liberal with that and believe that it isn't. And then we have what I feel is society changes that has occurred in the last decade, and that is gambling is widely accepted by the mainstream now, and it's not something that is taboo, but it's accepted. It's normal
Yeah.
to get into that kind of thing. Go ahead.
No, I'm saying hi
Uh,
to Eric.
Oh,
oh yeah,
Ryan,
me too.
It's
Me
I
story of the
thought
too.
card.
Ryan was trying to get my attention.
Hey, yeah,
Um,
me next.
yeah.
Go ahead.
So with gambling so prevalent in the hobby now, um, it's not just a problem for sports, but collectors too. And you know, I I see that we're gonna have to start looking more, I think, into I guess or um, what happened with the 1919 White Sox and the 1946 Giants, the NFL championship, and um, and Pete Rose especially.
Mm.
Where do all these players fit into uh, today? Uh, the players of the past, you know, it really does kind of bother me on two separate issues because um, do we allow Joe Jackson to get in the Hall of Fame now?
Yes.
We do.
Well, I think he wasn't as guilty or guilty at all from his stats of the games and what have you. I think that's been, at that time, it was a blanket thing that everybody just got, you know,
Right.
everyone got the boot. and you get, unfortunately, he got caught up in it. But like they said, his stats never really changed. He didn't have hardly any errors. So, to relook at him again, yes. The other ones, okay, that's different.
So I would kind of put it as a individual thing that you have to look at individually, right? So Joe Jackson, I'm kind of divided with Joe Jackson because he did lie about it in the 1924 case to get his money for 1921. So he was found guilty of perjury. But when it comes to Buck Weaver, I I think that we need to look at him again too, because there are certain aspects of the 1919 World Series in which he may not have had a choice, given that he was threatened by other teammates. So I would kind of look at those two guys individually, and then Pete Rose. So I think a lot of collectors might have so much money involved in these cards that it's kind of like clouding their judgment. What do you guys say to that?
Go ahead, Victor.
Well, and that really shouldn't even come into the equation, to be honest with you. I have a hard time with rewriting history. And you know, these guys didn't serve prison sentences, for crying out loud. I mean, they just
Right.
you know, their careers might have been tainted or their reputations might have been tainted. But that was, you know, gambling was frowned upon back then. It was like not, it was illegal to practice and that kind of thing back then. So I don't know. I just say let's let history lie where it's at and let's move forward. I think we need to do a better job at defining what even that means in the hobby. What is gambling in the hobby? What does that look like today? Some people, and it's from what I'm gathering, what I'm studying is that there's like the rookie card, there's a lot of difference of opinion out there when it comes to gambling. So is it specifically breaking? Is it the razzes? Is it what Topps is doing? Some are alleging that Topps is grooming children to become gamblers. And so there's a lot of like really harsh speculation and talk out there. And I think we as a hobby, we need to, I guess, find those lines. And is that something that is that a corporate decision? Is that a hobby decision? How can the hobby change it? You know, there's just so many wide spectrum of opinion out there that I think it's up to each individual person to find their own conviction in it. And if you agree with that practice, fine. And if not, then you don't have to. But I think there probably is a lane for gambling types in the hobby. That's just the way the world has churned. And so, you know, I just think the spotlight shouldn't be on that. When I look at Topps on Instagram and I see the constant reels of people pulling these one-of-ones or pulling these huge cards, and that's where we put all the focus on, is pulling the big hit. And so we create this environment of excitement, which really is like gambling when you look at the odds that it is to pull one of these things. But more like the case that Rob Veras makes. Let's put the spotlight on collecting, and not so much on the big hit gambling type of thing, you know. And I support Rob in that mission, because what he's saying is there's a lot of truth behind what he's saying, and it really resonates with me, especially with the spotlight, because that's all we see and that's all that's fed to us. And it's so unlikely that somebody's going to pull one, and people are dropping big money. They're dropping thousands upon thousands of dollars, and they're getting smoked. You know, they're buying into these breaks, and they're walking away with nothing. And I think that's the biggest core issue on this, is that we're not going to create collectors, we're going to create gamblers that are going to get smoked, and they're eventually going to leave because there's no return on their investment.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with
Not
that.
inhale, right?
Yeah.
If you're getting smoked. So
Yeah. They're getting,
Yeah.
That's the term.
so I have a different perspective on Rob Barris. I think he's done a great job, and I think it's just business as usual. But now we have the internet and everybody's, talking about that. But he took his site off of eBay, which I thought really didn't help the consumer. He went exclusive with Fanatics. So I don't think he did it on his own. I think he was prompted, maybe paid. I'm not sure. But, I will go along with what he's doing is right. Like, let's get people back into collecting. But that's a new mantra, where the old mantra was, hey, we got cards. It was 2020. It was like, oh, yeah, everybody was just kind of enjoying the rush.
Yeah.
Now we're in the aftermath of that rush.
Well, a lot of people had a lot of money. A lot of people had a lot
tons.
of money during the
a lot of
pandemic.
loss, a lot of ones, right?
I can speak from experience, guys. When I came back into the hobby in 2014, I was learning about the hobby and kind of where we're at. And I learned that breaks was the thing. And I got into it in 2014. And by the end of 2015, I had dropped close to $7,000 on breaks. And I had Andres Galarraga jersey auto. That's maybe
That was what you had to show for it.
that's what I had to show for it on maybe a $5 card. And it just left such a bad taste in my mouth. Why? Because I kept getting smoked. I kept getting into break after break after break, getting nothing in return. It was horrible.
So how long did it take you to get out of that funk of keep going into breaks is the question?
Yeah, like I said, so I came back in 2014, and by the end of 2015, I realized that this breaking game, it was not for me. Yeah.
And it does take, it's that learning curve.
Yeah, it's that learning curve, and it's small potatoes in the grand scheme of things. But to me back then, that was a lot of money. I know I don't have it like that. And
if you would have bought that $7,000 worth of cards, 2021, 22, you'd be laughing, at that point. So
I got
there's
smoked.
a lot to be said about that. Yeah, and gambling is the natural progression of the hobby. It has to go that way. As anything increases in value, we have that.
And I can tell you from experience, guys, and it's probably different for everybody. So I can't speak for everybody. But in my experience, the adrenaline rush that I was getting in some of those breaks, in my opinion, it was a form of gambling to me.
And that's social.
That's the rush that I was getting, the excitement. I don't know the word for it, but that's the danger in it. And I was, I'm a middle-aged man that should know better.
Is breaking fixed?
Man, tune into Whatnot, you'll see.
Yeah. It's not perfect by no means, but
nor can it be, or will it be ever?
I don't know. I guess there's good and bad in everything, you guys.
Well,
it's a cautionary tale, the gambling
Yeah.
part of the hobby. It's always going to be there, and all we have to do is say a few words, tell people it's bad, and be that steward to give back to the hobby that way, because there's no governing body, as I've always said. So we can only get out there with our voices and say, hey, watch out for the gambling. But you tell a gambler who's in the mid 2014 and he's spending $7,000, hey, you shouldn't be gambling. It's like, yeah. I'm on the next break's coming up. Leave me alone. You can't get somebody while they're in there, but they need to sit back and see the results and see how it has affected their life. And unfortunately, what was that saying? They go, I forget who it was. They said, if you ever go into a casino, I hope you don't win your first day, because then you might not return. Because if you win, you'll be back. And gambling is a natural thing that's going to happen.
Yeah,
and I don't put gambling in the hobby for me. I don't even think about it. It's not gambling. You gamble on what you're going to buy, but you're not gambling on the money aspect of it. So the base of the collectors are, not so much gambling. The other people, you have kids now, don't want to shovel driveways. They don't want to cut, lawns. They want to buy a card and up and up and up and up, and that's how they're making money. And I think I shouldn't even say kids, like even 20s, 30s, 40-year-olds. Dare I say 50-year-olds? They're just in it to have some fun, and unfortunately, it can hurt your and like you said, once they're out and they realize that they screwed up a little bit, they're not coming back.
Right, that's the problem.
Yeah. How do you get kids? How do you get people to stay in the hobby if the cards are too expensive?
Well, that's the lion's share of a lot of people who have come in of late, I would say, over the last few years. Most people came in because they saw the money there. That's the reason for growth. Best part is, okay, the ones that came in, a lot left, but a lot did stay. And they curtailed how they wanted to collect, and they listened to good videos and a lot of good people who say a lot of good things out there. So, that helps keep them there. But I don't know. In 20 years, I'm going to look back and say, all these cards that are going to be produced, how many sets in a year? What are we, 1,000, 2,000 sets? Just in the main 4 sports, approximately. Am I about right?
I don't know.
I know, like Panini, they make like an average of 40 products a year. Baseball is like 37 products a year.
So collectively, it would be at least 500 to 1,000 sets. The memory retention that you're going to have just to remember what happened over the last 20 years, that was, whatever gold, this, that, and I forget what year it was. And, is that the number one of one is going to be still something then? I don't know. Going forward, I don't see it.
And that's my biggest.
I see some changes, but like your last video, Victor, and I was just trying to reinforce that, trying to tell you before, is that now they're bringing out, if your rookie goes on, you can get $300 if he gets into the Hall of Fame, and all this. It's like, what are they trying? They're trying. I'll give them that, but I think it's a lack.
Yeah, and I can attest to the fact that.
If you want to explain it a little better than I did, to let people know.
Well, I was going to touch on the point of the era in the early 2000s. There was a mass exodus of collectors that left the hobby, and the way I remember it, at least in my circle of influence, is that a lot of us felt that we were priced out. The hobby was releasing products, too many products, and that's when the high-end product really came to be. I mean, you got to realize that none of us, we hadn't seen a $500 box of product before. This was all new to us, and the problem is that it was selling, but it was selling to the higher end folks in the hobby, but it rose the prices of everything else. And so a lot of us, myself included, we were priced out of the hobby. I couldn't know, and I was a dealer back then, and I could not keep up with. I was hemorrhaging money, and I had to spend $500, and I was getting a $100 return if I was lucky. And it's just the box opening game is just really, really expensive, and you got to have really, really deep pockets if you're going to play in that genre. But it's one of them things, and I feel like we're repeating history. All we're doing is curtailing and coddling to the high end folks. And
I can say we're in 1993, 94 again with a few more decimal points on the dollar.
Yeah. That's we were in this situation back in 96 with those. I think it was Fleer did a signature series, and those packs were going for like $10. And if you remember, that was in 96, that was huge. And then prior to that, you had Topps, Finest, and then all these other card, and the funny thing is too, a lot of cards from the 90s now are getting quite expensive, and particularly because I think the way the manufacturers manufactured the cards to have that, I don't know what they put something on the card that now it's kind of ruining the cards. So um, whether it's a resin, which I think it is, but that resin has destroyed a lot of the cards, and you know
Yeah, yeah.
we are
Yeah, some
repeating.
of those wax packs were stuck together in the 90s.
Yeah,
You open them up and
yeah.
brick.
We,
Yeah.
yeah, we're just repeating over and over again. It seems in the hobby, and it's generational. Because again, I'm not sure if we're doing a very good job of teaching other generations of of our hobby past. It might be beneficial if we kind of start doing that.
Sure.
But
Yeah. You learn not to repeat the same mistakes that we made in the past. And I think, the work that you guys do is so important that to carry on that history, and it's something that we've been commissioned to do as men, is to teach the ones that are coming up behind us, right? And I think that's a responsibility that we all have, especially in a hobby. It should be taken with the utmost seriousness, and know the hobby history, know how things evolved, and so we don't make the same dumb mistakes over and over again.
you know,
You know.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
yeah,
An interesting ride.
Hmm.
So, and it has been an interesting ride. I've seen lots of changes, and I think we're looking at a hobby. If you have a bell curve, it's going up and down, just like every other bell curve. Like the stock market, like everything else. Things get hot, they get a little cold. Circumstances. The next one, I don't even know where the next one is. We had the internet, and then we had the pandemic. After that, I could never foresee anything happen like 2020 again. But you never know. Who's
Yeah.
to know?
And I think that as collectors today, um, I think we have to kind of get creative and kind of reinvent how we're going to hobby, especially for those who like the modern cards today. I think the prices are going to continue to go up, and so we got to find our lane. We got to know what we collect, why we want to collect it, because we may fall in danger of getting over priced out, basically. And I think it's they're going to continue to um, pay attention to the higher end products, the higher end cards, and the cost of everything is going to go up. It's already gone up. It may go up even more with all these tariff talks and everything else. So who only knows what a box of top series one, when it start costing you $200, $300 for a box of top series one, it's like, wow,
Yeah.
what does it come to, and so I'm bracing myself for that kind of pricing, and I need to figure out how I want to do this,
Well, Ryan had a great thing last time we were on. Ryan started collecting cricket, and
yeah,
he did some nice sidelines of his collecting. He has his main stuff, and then for maybe affordability or interest changes or what have you, it's nice to take another lane
yeah.
and go down the path. Things don't have to be worth money to be scarce, rare, or even collectible. So and I feel that if people have a focus, I think um, like somebody who's really collects things. I used to like collecting banks. I don't know why. When I was a kid, you finished with that coffee can, I'd cut a hole in. Never had money to put it, but just saying. So I kind of really like if people focus. So I have different collector friends who, oh, this guy really goes after. He likes glasses and mugs, and this other guy he likes inserts, and this guy likes, you know, those type of things. I think you need to find your lane and be happy to be within that lane yourself.
Mhm.
That's the reward is yourself. It's not sending it in, getting it graded, showing the grade to everybody. It's just it's more impersonal.
And
yeah.
a lane that aligns itself with your nostalgia and your budget is crucial.
Yeah, we're not this. It's not a game of competition. It's just whatever you're having fun doing.
Right.
I I seem to think that for some people it's keeping up with the Joneses, but also, I did have to branch out to other sports and other genres. For example, I've gotten heavily
Because you
into
wanted to, or
because I had to, because
you
I
had
still
to.
wanted to collect. So I got into movie actors and music cards. just because for me personally, I can't ever see the day that I'm going to be able to stop, because I think if I do stop collecting, it, it won't turn out good for me mentally. For me personally, the hobby isn't just, it's really not about money. It's about keeping my mind busy. Um, and you have to really do something. You have to have a hobby. I always tell people when they're retired or going to retire, you have to either get a part-time job or you have to get a hobby or something to keep you busy. Because there's too many guys that I've known who have retired and all of a sudden 3 to 6 months later they're 6 feet under. And that's a real thing. And so for me, in my hobby pursuit, I look at it as history, and it's really kind of like the thrill of the hunt, the thrill of the chase.
Yeah.
And again, like I don't know everything that's out there, so um, I want to kind of like see what's out there, and then on top of it too, it's not just about the cards; it's about the people that you meet and interact with as well. So yeah, it's uh, I think it's gotten a little bit out of whack. To tell you the truth.
That's
Um,
beautifully said, Ryan. To me, the my definition of collecting is where I get to collect the players who have influenced me. I like collecting the players that I have connected with. When I think of my very first experience with Muhammad Ali back in the mid 70s when he lost to Leon Spinks, I was a 7-year-old boy and I cried when he lost. But then there was a rematch like 6 months later where Muhammad Ali just put a whooping on him, right?
It
And he
wasn't that a
won.
lot
He
of
was
games.
victorious again. And
Yeah.
just what that meant to me, the lessons that taught me in life, it just that year it impacted my life, I believe. And it to not give up, to come back and fight another fight. Uh, I think of Reggie Jackson when he hit that 3 home runs in that one World Series game. I mean, that was I watched all 3 home runs happen. I saw my
Mhm.
mom and my dad rejoicing, running around the house when he hit that third home run. We couldn't believe our eyes. Um, and I get into like, living in the Chicagoland area. Michael Jordan, just to me, really is a player that has impacted me so much and has impacted my collecting most of my life. And it's because I watched for a decade. We like watched every single game that this guy played, and it was an amazing era for me,
Uh-huh.
And Sammy Sosa is another guy. Roberto Clemente is another guy. I remember I'm of Puerto Rican descent, and I remember my parents telling me stories that they heard of Roberto Clemente as they were growing up as kids, and I'm sitting there going, "Really?" You know, and those are the types of collectors I'm drawn to collecting. They gotta mean something to me. They gotta move me in some way, and that's
Yeah,
what
not
collecting is
just
to me.
monetarily, yes.
Yeah, not just monetarily. Exactly. Well said, Bobby.
yeah, yeah. Roberto Clemente. So I'm a real big fan of Roberto Clemente. I think more so than Jackie Robinson at this point. And you know, aside from these guys playing sports, uh, they're human beings first and foremost, and they all have their own individual story to tell. And Roberto Clemente really is he's someone you should look up to as a human being, not just a ball player.
Right. He was
You
the
know,
ultimate role model, and he didn't just have the dark skin issues, but the language barrier when he first came up. Knew very little English, and just to I cannot imagine what he had to go through, not being able to even communicate with others.
yeah,
Uh-huh. Yeah,
yeah, and Jackie Robinson is a player that I've seen just skyrocket to the moon in price. And it's unfortunately, Victor, you said that like collectors are getting priced out of the hobby, and I don't really collect modern. I collect vintage, and I've been priced out from where I was back in the early to mid '90s collecting vintage. You could do that on a cheap budget, if you will, but it's just getting so difficult to do this. Do you guys think that how are collectors actually paying for this stuff? Is it through the credit card?
Mm.
Likely, I would say.
I would say very likely. I sometimes wonder how is it? I'm a working man. I make a decent living. I've invested money in the stock market. I have a savings account, and I live a very modest life. I don't have a very luxurious life. I drive a 10-year-old car, and I'm thinking to myself, how do
number one?
What's that?
Your basement is number one. That's the collecting zone.
How do they pay? How do you? Maybe I'm just not at that level. I just cannot fathom going to a card show and spending $500,000 or $10,000.
Yeah.
How do they do it?
At different levels.
I think a lot of it is credit cards. Yeah.
So like when I was at the 2003 National, I was able to pick up a 49 Bowman Jackie Robinson for $175 and a T206 Walter Johnson for $125, and you could do that. So when I was at the Lucky's Boston show about a couple of weeks ago, I picked up. I don't know if you guys can see this. I picked this card up for it's Monty Irvin, and I knew Monty Irvin very well, and so I wanted a card of him. But this card is a 1.5, and way back when I was in my teens and 20s, we wouldn't ever think of buying cards that were like 1.5 or poor to fair condition, because again they weren't all that expensive. However, with this card, I saw them for like $300 and some odd dollars. There's actually two of them, and then this for $50, and I couldn't get the guy to lower his price. He was going off comps. I'm old school, so I don't really understand comps. Do you guys have a better understanding of that than I do? How exactly does that work for your average?
It's kind of funny, I can go back to 1970. I'm trading with my friends, and condition wasn't even a thing. You trade the guy a card, you went great. You didn't care if it was centered. You didn't care if it had rounded corners. It was card for card. There might have been the odd stickler, who wants a better card. But I mean, cards are cards. We threw them against the wall, did all those things. We didn't really care at that time. And comps are just a comparative value. That's what comps really means anyways. Just what has recently sold. And then you can mark it off of that.
Yeah, that's the key right there, Bobby. And that's how I use it. I use several apps that help me find prices, but I'm more of a graded collector. But it's one of them things to me. I look at maybe the most recent 2 or 3 sales, and then I take the average of all 3 of those. And that's to me how you figure out. And sometimes you might have an outlier in there that it sells extremely high or extremely low. I don't really go by that either, but I'm looking for an average cost of not so much the last one, because that doesn't paint a full picture of that card's value, right? To me, it's take the last 3 sales, the most recent sales, and do the math and find the average. And that's what how I use it.
That's what Beckett was doing.
It's not easy. So sorry. What was that?
No, that's what Beckett was doing. Back in the
Yes.
late 70s and 80s, and I thought it worked really well. But apparently nobody's doing Beckett anymore, and because we have 2 different sets of prices today, and it gets a little confusing. Brandon here, he's got an interesting take on this? We've all been conditioned to look at grids first.
I think on that, I think, if you're the flipper type, yeah. If you're the investor type, yeah. Me personally, I use it. I like to buy the grade that I can afford, the highest grade that I can afford. So if I'm looking at a card and all I can really afford is a 3, I'm content with a 3. And but I think, like, for ultra modern, I'm a base rookie card collector. I can afford 10s in those, so I prefer 10s if I'm going to go get a Victor Wembanyama rookie card. But it's because it's in my wheelhouse. So why not get the 10?
Yeah,
So-
we do run into pricing issues, and I think that's the problem. I actually just picked up this set. I've never seen it before, and people are asking, and what it turned out to be, it was from the Sheriff Coins from 1961. They had this booklet would give you a discount. Like, these were 60 cents each plus a box top back then, or a package.
Wow.
60 cents. That's why we haven't seen them. The quality is phenomenal, thick and beautiful. So I've never seen them. So what do I pay for them? It's just like, what's the comp? What's the comparative value?
Right.
Well, I've seen some other ones in around that era sell for, you got the Beehive ones and all these other ones. So you kind of go, well, they used to be about $200, $150. Now they're about $100 for those ones as time has went on, because there's a lot of them out there. These, it's really hard to price, but there's comparative value. Now the condition is incredible for the year.
Are those patches, magnets, stickers?
No, they're patches. Yes,
They're patches.
Those are awesome.
Those are beautiful.
Yeah.
They're phenomenally thick, beautiful. So felt, I guess it's felt with, there's raised felt here on the decorative design, and sort of a satin finish on the front. So they're all really kind of, and they're all different and nice in their own way. Oh, sorry, Victor. I didn't, I got to accommodate Victor here. Okay, Blackhawks. There we go. I'll accommodate. There
Any
you go,
Bruins?
Ryan. So we do run into that. So these are in great condition. I'm thinking, even this is where it comes down to. I would pay the same money if they were beat up opposed to being mint. Because you can't, if it's the first time you see them, you don't care about the condition because they're rare, right? So the rarity alone will sustain its value. It's not like, oh, these are super rare. This is the first set I've ever seen out of 30 years of looking. And they're not only are they rare, they're in great condition. How do you equate that? You can't. And we end up at a point that I would just pay the same amount of money, because there's nothing has been said. There's no, and getting back to your comp question, there's nothing that's sold like this before. So you'd put it out in an open auction and let her go and see where it ends up. But that one sale is not really going to even be a comp. You need actually at least 3 to be a decent comp for something like that.
Would you sell those individually or as a lot, Bobby?
You would sell it as a set, because they were all bought as a set.
Okay.
Individually, you could certainly get more for them. I would imagine, to the particular collectors, but somebody needs that, the set. And if it was just one, maybe the guy won't want it because he's got to get 5 more, and if he hasn't found any, then why would I want to collect it? So it's a balancing act, And what do you collect? How much can you afford? Should I pay $700 for these?
Right. Yeah.
And I would say to Brendan Ryan there, you have not failed as a father, brother. I have 5 kids and none of them collect. None of them even show an inkling of interest.
But they haven't hit their stride yet. They haven't hit that 20 years.
Yeah.
They might collect the stuff that they liked as a kid.
And they're in their 30s already, so I don't know.
No, they need 40 plus usually.
Yeah.
It's been earlier lately, but I find that people aren't really, especially the kids maybe who are 15, 20 years old now, there's nothing to recapture their youth, because we're on a spinning cycle of constant stimulation. Like they're reliving their youth daily. It's a rewind. It's a constant repeat, because we have the internet, and then we'll have AI. So AI is just going to snap. Hey, remember that commercial? Yeah. I don't have to remember it. I've seen it, 500 times since, for the last 20 years, 500 times. It's just, So there's no surprises going forward in that regard. They're going to have a lesser chance. And then there's no licensing of other items, so they're not really exposed to sports so much as they would be, on a cereal box or whatever. I think we've talked about that even before. So there's nothing really to stimulate them
Yeah,
15, 20 years down the road.
that's a good point.
No product there.
Everything's streaming. You got to pay for any kind of sport event that you want to watch. It's not like when we were growing up on Saturdays, we had the ABC Wide World of Sports, if you remember that.
Oh, yeah.
We grew up in the 90s where we had ESPN, and that was our go-to, man, at least for me. But kids, they have so much to choose from nowadays, man. It's hard.
I thought we did when we were like kids in the 80s, but I'm kind of reminded too, the stuff that we collect today, or not me, but maybe you guys, because I don't do modern, but 20, 30 years from now, do you think that the cards of today are going to be collected? I mean,
Sure.
Is it specific generations? Because, I'm still collecting stuff from like the 1980s, like this gentleman right here. This is Alan Wiggins. If you know anything about Alan Wiggins, unfortunate history with him, but I collect 1980s cards because I saw these guys play. I haven't seen, I really haven't seen any sports in the last 30 years.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. So I really, yeah, I talk about history and sports cards and stuff, but I really haven't seen any sports in 30,
Okay.
30. And the also, I just opened up my first pack in 30 years too, not too long ago.
How did that
What
go?
was it?
You know what? I felt like I was 16 again.
There you go.
It
Except this time you went, let's go.
yeah, it's funny opening up a pack of a true wax pack from say like 1983. Like I was like 6 years old, and so it brought back all these memories of that time when I was actually watching sports, and it instantly brought me back to being a kid. It was really, really great. You know,
I got some aids here to exemplify my point. So this is a merchandising catalog, where they have all the different things you can buy from, they have to have the licensing. So this is a licensed NHL merchandise catalog.
Nice.
So I don't know how many pages. It's
right up your alley there, Bobby.
No, I have a bunch. I have them they're hard to find. I have one from 74, 77, nothing through the 80s and 88, 89, 90, 91, 92, 93. So, okay, so I do have, so this one's 1990, let's just say. Basically, that's 1990. Here is 2002. Oh, there we go.
Wow.
Look at the license and look at the merchandise. Look at when we stack them there. That is nothing. So this is like, how many pages? 20. 100 pages almost and 20 pages. This is the licensing. This is going forward. What do you got? What do you have in here? Tons of stuff. Everything. That is the difference. That's 2002. So if you even get to 2022, I don't even think they make them. And what is there for, other than some jerseys and some sportswear? There's not much. So this is the real cause of the problem, is the restricted licensing that happened right around 2002. So we do have issues with the the licensing of products, and you're not sending it out there. Like I said, no cereal, no nothing. So what are these kids going to look forward to? If they never collected cards, why would they collect cards in the future? Recapture their youth with what? Unless they were buying into box breaks or something, they have no exposure to it. So what you do get that happens is you get gamblers coming in because that opportunity is there. You don't have to recapture anything at that point. Anyways, I just thought it was a good example of the licensing and how things have went going forward. and they really
Well,
need to
the
look at
license.
that.
Yeah, so the
License.
licensing is kind of interesting between what Tops and Panini, right? Fanatics, Tops, and Panini.
Mhm.
So I had heard that there's a 20-year license between was it
Yeah,
Panini, not Panini, Tops and the
ups.
leagues. So I I would I'm not sure how that's gonna play out in the courts if they're gonna break up the licensing like they did with Microsoft back in 2001, uh, where they declared it Microsoft to be a monopoly in '01, and um, they may say the
Mhm.
same thing with this. Um, I I think that more the merrier if they can give licenses to other companies. Then Bobby, you're right. Like the thing is, why not have like Post cereal, for example, put baseball cards, into their products again. I mean, or cat food, or dog food or whatever. You may actually have an expansion of collectors at that point. What do you guys think?
I think I like your ideas. I think they're valid. I often think, well, I wonder what happened in 1980 when that judge decided that Tops was a monopoly and that, Fleer, they kind of opened up the floodgates so that other people can create sports cards. But then if we look at that, and that was like a victorious moment, I believe, for the industry. But when we fast forward to 2004 and we look at how things evolved, it's very difficult then to have five or six card manufacturers, everybody creating between 30 and 40 SKUs. And that's what happened in 2004. And what they do is they oversaturate the market,
Yeah.
and people, collectors can't keep up. So I would say, yeah,
But
I would love for
that's to their own
every
demise, though.
yeah, I would love for everybody to be able to print product, but I think it has to come with some form of regulation, some kind of cap to where we cannot
Yes.
flood the market, I don't know.
I think that cat is out of the bag, though. I think that the manufacturers have already flooded the market starting in like 1993, right? It's only gotten worse from there. When we were kids, we had what, three products to choose from for
Right.
the most part. Um,
Every
and
year it seemed like it
yeah,
more, more and more and more.
yeah, and then Tops really started to hit everybody with new product that was more expensive. Top's finest, and that was expensive for the time. Same with Top Stadium Club too. And I think those packs are going for like about $5 if I remember correctly. Um, Also with that too, you also had a lot of forgeries as well back in the '80s and the early '90s
Yeah.
of cards. Um, you know, let me see. Fanatics would buy Panini to shelve it. That might actually create a monopoly, though.
Yeah,
But then
definitely.
again, like, yeah, um, even with the monopoly, though, like we all three of us know what's going on in the hobby for the most part, but that doesn't um, that doesn't say that a, a legislature or a court would know anything about the hobby, so they might
No.
just sit on their hands, you know, and let things play out to be a
Well, I think that's
monopoly.
hurting the commerce for the industry is hurt by not having licensing, doing different products. It doesn't have to be sports cards, but it might stimulate the sports card market too if there is other products that are brought in. The creativity is gone. There's no company's going to walk and go, "I'm not giving you $50,000 to a license." No way. It's not in their purview, but they did back then, and that stuff is actually carrying through, and it helps people with who have finished all their sets. Let's say, hey, I like these other things. Maybe I like these plastic ashtrays. Maybe I like different things. So it gives them that avenue. You know, something maybe you guys don't collect because you're more card guys, but there is that other side. These crests are great for hundreds of people would want them, or thousands. You know, well, hockey's a little smaller, but in baseball and all the other sports, all those creative things that came together are part of the hobby, and its driving force is not just cards in front. You have all these other, gang of things behind them, pushing them forward as well, giving people options, and you need those options. So I remember growing up, and it's Lipton soup, it's craft dinner, it's all these different things that had cards and stuff in them. It's a living legacy to their brand, actually, which is great for them. But now it's almost virtually nothing. Nothing.
Why do you think that is, Bobby?
To that.
Why do you think that is, Bobby?
Licensing became because of obviously the money, right? They started cutting back. They started going, we need to make more money on our licensing. 2000, we're coming out of the 90s, so that it gets really thin. Like, honestly, other than most of it's clothing in here, that's all it's down to. Like, they make good money on clothing, I understand, but there's some chairs and a desk, but the other ones lambasted with everything, you name it, from lighters to everything. It's just phenomenal, and all that stuff being out there populates the hobby.
What year did it start phasing out, and what year did it finally go obsolete, you think?
Well, it's not so obsolete now, but I would say it's here I did show you the change at 2020, so I'd have to say in the probably the late 90s.
I'm talking about food and beverage issues, Bobby.
Yeah, in around the late 90s, I would say.
Late 90s, yeah.
Late 90s, yeah. And it's different eras for different things, but at that time, I think it was just getting too expensive to license something, to make the promotion, to pay for all of this, to get more sales for their product. It wasn't worth their while. So the money, obviously. So the NHLPA and the MLBPA, all the PAs there, they just, I guess they wanted more money. And now we're at a different point today where, boy, the money that they get, it's just like, it's phenomenal what they're being paid. And, that's fine.
Yeah.
The players are already millionaires for the most part.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's
a little extra doesn't do them any justice, but it's more and more, right?
There's also a problem too with a lot of the players' signatures as well on these cards, and they honestly, they look like garbage. And what I didn't realize was that just how many signatures these guys are signing. And if you're faced with like one signature, that's fine, or maybe two or three. But these guys are signing like 300, 400, maybe a few thousand signatures for these cards. And, the older you get,
you start to penthouse.
You start to get
in New York. Yeah, whatever. It's for them.
I can assure you, as a content creator who makes videos on ultra modern cards, these guys sign tens of thousands of cards their rookie season.
Sure.
Now, after their rookie season, it kind of tapers off. But that first year, they get these guys as soon as they get drafted. I mean, it's just like start signing, and I've seen videos where they send them boxes of cards, or they'll send them a packet of stickers, and they're expected to sign X amount of stickers in so much time. It's just like, man. And there is no shortage of
fame, right? I guess.
What's that?
It's part of fame.
Yeah.
You have to have that. So it's a very small thing to have them do, and it promotes people watching the game who actually pays for their salaries. So there you go. It does help, and it's good commerce for everybody in that regard. And getting to meet the person is even better when you go to a show, but you don't get to see mostly new players are not there. They're usually, after they've retired. That's usually when you get them, unless, a special event or something like that. So we just came off of the Toronto Sports Card Expo. Boy, there was a lot of signing guests there, and a lot of people showed up just for that, which was great too. So it was very,
how was that show?
It was great. Traditionally the spring show is a little bit less attended than the fall because we're hitting the end of the season. A lot of teams are out. hockey. It's now baseball. So you have the spring being maybe about, I don't know, I'd say a quarter less. Is there good things to find? Yes, you can find great things in the spring that you won't find in the fall. It's not a matter of that. It's just how busy it is. The signing, yes. It seems like the fall is more of the concentration. Season's getting started. That inertia is there. Everybody wants to get back into the hockey season's back, and what new product is coming out, or what have you. But it's fun any which way. I went to 70 different shows this Toronto Sports Card Expo, because they have 2 per year, right? Yeah.
Nice.
So 70, 50 in a row, I think. So
I always view shows as interactive classrooms, and you can
more
learn a lot.
status now. It's really kind of funny. It's changed a lot, but you could see all the different. Well, there's a lot of corporate now booths where there was very little before. There's tenfold now.
Are you guys going to the National at all?
Not this year, no.
I live less than an hour away, so
Victor, I'll see you there, bud.
I'll be there. I don't commute because of the summer construction that happens on the Boardman Expressway, and I just can't do an hour and a half drive at 1 o'clock in the morning to turn around and go back and do it the next day. So I end up getting a hotel, even though I live an hour away. I don't want to commute.
People do that here.
I've done that, and it's miserable. I'm miserable that week driving back and forth.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
It's okay if it's a weekend.
Yeah, I the last national I was at was in 2022 in Atlantic City, and I just heard horror story after horror story. I personally had a great time, but New Jersey is a place that I always get sick at without fail. I don't know what's in the water there, but you have 100,000+ fans descending on one city. I just hear I hear good things about the National, and I hear a lot of bad things about it. And personally, for me, I'm not really going there for the cards. I'm going there for the people.
It's social.
Yeah.
Very, very social now.
It's an expensive social getaway is what it is. And it's quite expensive, actually. Just booking your airline tickets and the hotel especially. And if you don't do it quickly, good luck.
You got to drive 25. You got to drop $2,500 just to walk through the door. That's hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's but I would suggest that everybody go at least once if they're if they really like the hobby. And there is a lot to like about the hobby, but unfortunately, it seems like all the good gets drowned out by all the bad that's going on, which is unfortunate too. Just because that seems to be life, though, right?
Yeah, that's how it is with life. I absolutely love the National.
I always think there's good. I don't really focus too much on the bad. It's always been there. Because of the way I collect or the way I do things, it really doesn't affect me for the most part. But it affects the hobby in general, so I am concerned, and I do like to talk about it, because if we're not having discussions, then it stays in people's minds too much. It's the hobby's a great place. It's a great place to have fun, but unfortunately there's a lot of downside to breaking and all these other things that are going on, the new cards and what have you. Yeah, I get it. But find a lane that you're happy with. You don't have to keep up with nobody. It's your own solace you want to get out of it, right?
I struggle sometimes, and you made a great point there, Ryan. Going for the people is that's the best part of it for me. And I'm not a real, I'm kind of an introvert, but when I get it to the National, it's just something about being around like-minded individuals that just gets my blood pumping. And a lot of times I have problems finding something to buy, only because I typically have a budget, but then it's like I have a hard time. There's so much to choose from, right? And it's hard for me to actually make a decision on a card. But moreover, I don't see a lot of what I like to collect. As far as
Hmm.
like my set registry stuff, I'm heavy into the set registry stuff. But a lot of my set registries are like 1980s or 1990 rookies. And I go over there. I don't see a lot of that stuff. I really don't. And so that's a bummer.
Hmm.
But hopefully this year will be different.
So, how does the set registry actually work? I'm not terribly familiar with it.
Yeah, so you add your cards into the inventory by using the that number that they have on the slab. You punch that into the website, and what you're basically doing is you're adding that card into your inventory. Once that card is in your inventory, you can create a set, or you can sign up to join a particular set. For example, the top 100 cards of the 1980s. That's an actual set in there. And one of my favorite sets to build that I'm currently building. But I go in there and then I add the cards that I do have in my inventory. I add them to that set. And so
Oh,
now I
cool.
can see what I have and what I need based off of that checklist. And so I can go to a show and shop for the cards that I need using the app. And then they have like, if there's a structured numbering system for it, if you want to rank, you can use that to rank. I don't get into the ranking side of things too much because it's like the more cards you have and the higher grade, the better your ranking is going to be. Okay.
Is that what Brandon here is saying? The Jones scale? I assume it's not Indiana Jones.
I guess
Keeping up with the Jones.
but it's like it's a lot of fun. It's interactive. It's a community within the community, and it's my favorite way to hobby, to be honest with you.
Bobby, is there anything that you're collecting these days?
Yeah, actually, everything. I'm actually collecting more information than I am anything else. But what I have been pursuing of late is, I actually wanted to show this. I'll show this to Victor. Victor, so we've always referenced the Canadian Sports Magazine, the CSC. They're no longer around anymore, but this was a CSC, Canadian Sports Magazine.
Okay.
And they were just like a Beckett. You know, you have a price guide, you have, lots of different articles. This one's from 2008. That's when I actually wrote for them. I have an article in here too as well.
Nice.
So it was very similar to, so we had the Beckett on here. We also had the Beckett, but I mean, we also had our own Canadian one at that time.
Do they still make that, Bobby?
No, actually, went out just after I left.
Going out of business because of Bobby.
Maybe, I don't know. I don't think so. But no, I've been collecting stuff like older price guides. There's
cool.
1970s. Isn't that crazy? Like,
that was a good year.
The first national was 1980. Like, honestly, if you read this and get into this thing, you go, the first official what? Like, because this is really Detroit, Michigan. It says there, and it shows you the next two shows. California being I guess it would be 1979. Yeah. So this was almost like a national. It's actually called what's it called? The National Convention Schedule. So, are we questioning that the convention was before the convention? Maybe it wasn't officially transpired into that. So, and other sports guides, which are really kind of cool. I really enjoy ones like that. Just
I love
and
them.
It has pictures of all these people. Yeah, they're really great, and they have like tons of pictures of the old timers in here. Guys you've never seen at shows. Like you'll see Nagy in there, you'll see other people. It's just like crazy cool.
You get
Even
a real
Jim
vibe
Beckett's
of
in
the
one.
hobby back then too, man. I love it.
Yeah, I think Jim Beckett's in here. He's
with hair, right?
19...
Yeah.
A much younger Jim Beckett, I'm assuming.
Yeah, he'd be right in here.
Oh my God. That's cool.
Wow. I got to show him that.
That's that. Yeah. And there you go. If you want to buy one. Oops. There we go.
A T206 Wagner.
Yeah,
I think one
$1,000
just
yours.
sold, right? Wow.
It's $1,000.
What? In 77, huh? Or what year
No,
was
this
that?
that was 77. This is 77 as well. Yeah, yeah. So the hobbies,
$1,000.
really starting in around 77. So I got a few more, but it's nice putting a time and a place, what was going on. It's amazing the amount of collectibles that are out there. I don't see a lot of cards on people's tables. I do, but I see a lot of the collectibles in the backgrounds and the pins and all these other, the backs, like they're showing those. You remember those from the
Yep.
Jeff Valentine's. It's kind of amazing how it took a back seat. The cards took a back seat later. I mean, the took the front seat, and the other collectibles took the back seat as time went on. But it's always been there for collectors, just because we remember the products for the most part.
I frequent the card show in Chicago, the Chicago Sports Spectacular, and there's a lot of memorabilia and trinkets and that merchandise at that show, and it's the only one I see that kind of stuff at. To be honest with you, an abundance of it.
I never
And
see it.
Yeah,
you don't see a lot of that.
certain shows.
Yeah.
Certain shows are like that.
I never see any of that the old sports, I guess, price guides or the card collectors
They're hard to
bulletin.
find,
The only way you
Photos.
see that is if they're up for auction.
Yeah, on eBay, Trader Post. I've gotten a ton of them, and I absolutely love them, man. They're a blast.
Yeah, they're fun to
Yeah,
look back and see. But you don't see a lot of the cards are, when your tables are so expensive now, they're putting the most amount of value in the being space wise on their table. A lot of the merchandise, and most of the guys for hockey, vintage hockey, they don't just have cards; they have all the other stuff, glasses, the stemware, all this other different collectibles that were put out. They have a lot of that stuff because there's a large market for it. And you have to understand that I've documented it since 2000, and I guess let's say 6, where I showed a lot of people, and everyone looked through the guide and they just said, "Wow, this is great! I didn't know this was even out there." Now we have a date, we have a year, we have semblance, and people want to collect it, and it happens. But if you don't have any of that happening in baseball, football, and basketball too, there's no way of finding that information out. It's hard to find comps. Is it rare? Is it not? How much is it really worth? It's discombobulated, and it's hard for people to collect. I wish somebody would have really gotten a little bit more into it. There is specific collectors that understand certain things, but people don't know what they have on their table. It's just incredible. And there is a market. There's a large market for it. It's just most people aren't aware of that market or how to find prices. So
I mean that's where I really like Beckett, because it streamlined the hobby.
And I picked
really
up this
down.
2 cent
Wow.
from 1970. A towel and the thing, the original tag, and then there's a hanger with it on the back, huh?
And that's awesome. The Houston Oilers.
Anything that's an original package or original, this is like early 70s, because the bid company was only around for about 3 to 4 years doing most of the textiles like this. So I buy football too. Okay, there we go.
There you go.
Not just hockey and non-sports and all this other fun stuff that I'm into. It's great. It's merchandise, even in.
For me, hockey's really been very addictive, and I don't know what it is about hockey. Probably because we can't really find it around here, even if you have the Bruins. But I noticed really getting heavy into vintage hockey and vintage basketball. So I mean, the addiction is real, and going back to that, there a couple of years ago, I heard a video, actually saw a video on YouTube about a guy who said he was he got addicted to sports cards, and it ruined his life. And then the other day, I heard Mike from Junk Wax Hero say that there was a guy who spent, I think it was like $60,000 a year plus on cards, and I think he's going into a divorce now because he lied to his wife. Um, but again, like sometimes you
And
don't
great problem.
realize. Yeah, sometimes you don't realize that you are addicted to something. You just
I'm
I
addicted
didn't.
in a good way.
There's something to that. There's a healthy side of doing something and an unhealthy side of things, right?
I'll
Yeah,
take the healthy side. Yeah.
Hmm.
Tell my wife
yeah,
that,
me too.
please. Yeah.
Yeah,
She lets me do what I do.
there's some
It's great.
noise in social media today that I saw that this wife had posted something, and it's not pretty. It's making its rounds on social media, but this overspending, this addiction side of things, this gambling side of the hobby is the limelight is really on it this weekend, anyways.
I'm sure there'd be a lot more stories out there if they
I
could
believe
be.
so.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And make people separate or whatever. There's a lot of
Unfortunately,
things. There's guys I have to send stuff to a different address so they can go pick it up. And then they have this room, so they just put that new piece in there and they go, yeah, it's always been there. They'll never know. And that's the other thing about these collectibles. Like, if you're a Houston Oilers fan, hey, why wouldn't you, if you had a room, you'd love to have that in the, like a man cave. Like, it would be awesome. That's where the man cave really comes in.
mm-hmm.
Having your PSA graded cards in a box doesn't really help you in a man cave.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm saying, Victor. Behind you, it's a little vacant. We're gonna have to fill that up.
Yeah,
I agree. Yeah.
yeah, it'll happen.
Oh,
And you have stuff too. You have paintings and different things hanging
Yeah,
up. So
it'll happen.
books on shelves.
It's such a big.
Like
This is like literally a house down here now. So it's like I don't have the inventory to decorate a house.
No, it's key decorations.
Right.
Get one of those
Right.
clear IKEA things and put a couple key little pieces in there. So when
Yeah.
people come in, they go, "Oh, what is that? I've never seen that before." You know how many times I used to get that? Hey,
Yeah.
what is that? I've never seen that before.
I'm working on it. It's just
PSA 10.
I'm recouping financially from this project, and then also saving my pennies for the national. But I plan on having these walls covered up pretty nicely here in the future.
Is that a
completely covered.
is that a you have a picture of Mark the Bird Fidrich? Is that his rookie card back
Yeah.
there?
Yeah. Yep.
What made you choose
that.
the
Yeah.
bird?
Big Bird. That
Yeah.
is. I ended up. I went through this company called Magnetic AI, and it basically they print these images on a piece of metal, and then there's a magnet that kind of like sticks to the wall, and then you put the picture up there, and they're like 22 inches by 16 inches. But it basically, if you read my book, I basically talk about key cards in the hobby that really evolved the idea of a rookie card, and it started with Hank Aaron in 73, 74, and then it quickly moved to Pete Rose. And then Mark Federich was also a key component of that rookie card evolution because collectors started to figure out, hey, what about the prospects? So he's like the first prospect that kind of everybody drew everybody's attention to their rookie card. And then as we know, as we move into the 80s, the last image there is of Don Mattingly's 84 Donruss, which really set off the rookie card boom of the 1980s.
And that's
that
perfect
was
for that wall.
Yeah.
You don't have to decorate
So it's
it
kind of like
fully.
the storyline of how the rookie card came to be.
that.
I get it.
Yeah. The bird was from Massachusetts. I did a video on him, and I believe I actually briefly met him once without even knowing it. But it's funny with the 1980s. I just picked up a Doc Gooden rookie it's a box bottom from 1985, and I always kind of famously say, like, I remember 1984, I remember 1986. What the hell happened in 1985? I cannot remember that year. And then it dawned on me what happened was Live Aid.
Oh yeah.
They played that stupid song every day that I just, and the baseball cards in '85 top sucked. They really did with their product. I hated their product, and I think it was just all the bad memories. Although 1986 was not a very good year for me because I saw The Fly and Aliens and Critters, and
I
so
get it.
yeah, it was, being a kid in the '80s. It had its drawbacks, and you know the horror movies back then. I don't know if you guys are into horror movies at all, but I hate them. But
I they're just so fake. You know,
I haven't watched a
Freddy
horror
Krueger
movie in
once.
decades. Yeah.
What's your favorite
Well, I
rookie
watched a lot of
card?
great better horror movies, but anyways,
Oh, hey, what's your favorite rookie card?
My as like a actual card or a brand or what?
that'll be one of those behind you there.
No, the one that's nearest to my heart is my Clemente rookie, obviously, only because of the history that I have with him. But this Mark Fedridge, I never seen him play, and he had a short career, but I seen a documentary on him, and he's got to be one of the most interesting individuals. I think he was high on something.
Maybe.
Yeah,
What do you
him
think?
and Doc
Was there some
Morris.
psychedelics going on with that guy?
I think he's just he was such an entertaining person, highly entertaining.
Yeah,
Bobby,
but yeah, I like a lot of the '80s stuff. Again, it's just the era that really impacted me the most in the hobby. Um, but a lot, like, again, it's, to me, it's who the player is represents my collecting and what my favorite cards are. And I have a lot of players that impact me, like even Victor Wembanyama. I get poked fun of a lot because I'm collecting some of his base rookies, and it's like, why are you doing that? Well, it's because I know that feeling I get about a certain player, and I've gotten that feeling in the past with many players, and they've panned out to be one of the all-time greats. And this is kind of the same feeling I get with this kid, and even Anthony Edwards I can throw in there. They're modern basketball players that, to me, they have that it factor, and that's kind of what I've always based my collecting on is that it factor. And so those are the guys that I'm kind of drawn to collect, and so yeah, those are my favorite cards.
So that can be dangerous too, right? Because um, what if the ball player ends up having just a disastrous career,
Sure,
and people
sure.
pay, a Mac Jones, for example.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one thing. I think, again, the modern side of the hobby really kind of like goes around and around and around,
Yeah.
like a cat chasing its tail, because these things happened when we were kids too. Doc Gooden is a great example, and Mark the Bird as well. Very short careers. Um,
And
I
that's,
mean,
I was going to say, that's the low risk that I take with collecting the true rookie cards in PSA 10 format. They're $35, between $35 and $100. Not the end of the
Yeah.
world.
Well, like you said, you like watching horror movies and what have you. You spend the money on going seeing the movie. You have the memories of it.
Yeah.
Whereas, you know, Victor buys his Victor
Yeah.
weapon. Yeah, so he gets his card. So he has a material thing where you have a knowledge or memory thing.
Mhm.
and the
What
ticket
we
stuff.
choose to
Yeah.
spend our money on is definitely up to whoever. So you're going to spend the money. So you're wasting your money? No. If you don't get anything back, you're still not wasting your money. You have that possession,
All right.
and you still have it. It doesn't matter how much it's worth at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And I think you have to get away from that thought mind of your collection. Oh,
Yeah.
this dude's collection, man. He had this PSA, this. It's just like, yeah. I want to see the passion. I don't want to see the passion for the grade or the, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
just that's where
yeah.
it lies for me. And so you're going to ask if what's my favorite card, and I don't know if I have a favorite card. You know, it would be a Stanley Cup card from the 1924 champs, um, just for historically, you know, because the Stanley Cup is everything. It's a card. So it's the first time the Stanley Cup was represented on a trading card. You know, and I always ask, um, so the World Series, have they ever shown a World Series trophy on a card?
Not
Oh,
that
you
I'm
got to think
aware of.
about it. Isn't that something? Hmm. And
Yeah,
we don't have that respect for that. You know, it's like
yeah.
it should be there.
Um, Prior to the World Series, you had the Temple Cup, and that's been missing since the 1890s. Nobody knows where it is, and they don't even know where the 1966 World Series trophy is for the Baltimore Orioles, because that's been gone since 1966 as
Baltimore,
well.
figure it out. Anyways, um, just saying. Uh, you know, I like the Orioles actually. I like their colors. I do like all the other sports. It's just that you only have so much brain space and collectability to collect one sport for me for the most part. And I do like the non-sports as well. So, so I don't really have a favorite card. I have more of a favorite collectible, and it's the one that I'm gonna buy next is my favorite collectible.
Wait, what's that?
I don't know it yet.
Oh,
The one I'm gonna buy next, and we don't know what it is. Who doesn't want to wake up to a treasure hunt every day? You know, not me.
it's kind of
So
like what a show is, as a
it
treasure hunt.
is. It is. It's the anticipation, though. It's the hope, and it's not the gambling. It's you're just. I can't wait to find that next key piece of information so I can document it and educate people. I can't wait to see what's at this show. You know, the anticipation. It's not about the buying. It's not the kill. It's the thrill of the chase, and it always will be
Yeah,
that for everybody, for everything. It's like if that's not part of your thing, then I don't know how long you're going to last in the hobby, right?
yeah, I agree, and I think over the last couple of years, for me personally, I'm starting to inch away from collecting cards and going more towards uh, just pure research into the and
$100.
stuff.
Well,
Yeah. um, yeah, I think it's more important for me. I think I want to get more into the research aspect of the hobby. But I don't think I can ever get away from actually collecting cards. So I'm kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place, if you will. And I may be forced out of collecting just because of the prices. And that's the one thing that really kind of bothers me about going to shows now is I want to have fun. I want to meet people and talk to them. But I do want to build my collection, and that's becoming more and more difficult as time goes by, just because the values, the prices that these dealers are asking for, they're just so they're outrageous. I don't, again, like I get a little angry, and when I leave a show now, and I don't want to be, but uh, again, I I picked this card up at
Nice.
the last show, um, and I really enjoy Al Kaline's career, and I wanna try to build a collection of Kaline's cards, but the amount that I had to pay for this got me very angry, and I don't want to. I At the end of the day, I'm not even say it's my fault. Um, I didn't see a lot of alkaline cards there, and it's weird because I'll go to a show one year and I'll just see nothing but a certain card that I want. The next show I go to, I might not see that player or that card, and so at the end of the day, it kind of falls on me. And I don't know how long I'm going to be living for, so that's the other thing is I want to have a collection I can be proud of at the end of the day, you know, and it's not about the money, unfortunately. And I understand that dealers have they have a lot of overhead, even if they might not have a a card shop. They still have a lot of overhead, and how much they actually pay for these cards. But at on the other end of this, it's um, it's knowing your clientele, and uh, here in Boston, if you're showing cards that are like 5,000, 6,000, $12,000, and they're at a show, first off, you're inviting theft. Second off, how many people are actually going to go to a show with over $10,000? Like, is
A
that
lot.
realistic? What do you guys
It
think?
seems to be. I think our collecting
I
habits
agree,
change every
man.
5 years.
It's and that's that in that madness you felt. I mean, it's really the reflection of the market. I mean, that's what that card is selling for. I mean, you know, what can you do? You can maybe not get it in a PSA slab and go with a different brand of slab. You can try to get one raw, but that's kind of uh, for a card like that in raw condition, it's sketchy, right?
It can be if you need to do your research,
Yeah.
and you really do. And the thing is, like, I hear a lot of people say, like, I just got back into the hobby, and I'm like, okay, like, I understand that. um I mean, I never got out of the hobby. I just switched from modern to vintage 30 years ago, and I kept up with it. A lot of people never really kept up with it. They collected when they were kids. They may have gone to college, had a career, and had kids of their own. And that's one of the reasons why they got back into the hobby. However, once they got back into the hobby, you have a lot of disposable income at the older you get, right? So a peak for a man is in his 40s when it comes to finance. So I completely get that. The problem is that maybe that people are not doing their due diligence when it comes to uh, knowing what to pay for a card or the rarity of a specific card, because they're not doing the research necessary to make the decision, right? Um, and I wouldn't even know how much to pay for a modern card. I'm like a lost boy in the woods when it comes to that. But what do you guys think?
When someone comes back into the hobby, it seems that they want to get everything really fast. I think Justin, the sports card guy, he actually had some. Remember, he had some problems. He was collecting too much, spending way too much, and he kind of had to put the brakes on. It's because we want everything too fast, or we try to fit into this mold that we think what we want because we watch, videos of people pulling things. It's finding the direction. So whatever gets you back into the hobby, make sure you know, you're set a guideline for yourself that I have this much to spend. This is really what I kind of like. So maybe I'll pursue that. At least I can get somewhere, because otherwise you buy the big cards, bang, bang, bang. You'll be a lot of months in between purchases, and more will come up. They always do. There's always
Yeah,
something
a
for
lot of
somebody. So
a lot of the 50s and 60s cards, they're not rare. And speaking of Dustin, he does rail against breakers and gambling, and I understand. He's got kids, and he's looking out for the best interest of his kids. And I think kids in general, because they see they're very they're very impressionable, and they, even if you don't think that kids are not watching what you are doing as a parent or an uncle or whoever, they are, and that rubs off on how they're going forwards. So you have to be kind of like careful with, and kind of like teach people, like, um, the value of a dollar, which I think has really kind of escaped a lot of people today. And it certainly did when I was in college, buying and selling cards to pay for my college education. I had to step back because the money was flowing so fast. It was like water, and I was like, at one point, I was getting really kind of scared because I was like, "What am I doing?" Like obviously, like cards back in like 25, 30 years ago were a lot cheaper than they are now. But at the same time, too, um, you kind of have to kind of put it into perspective too. What you may see like a card in like Beckett from like 1996 or 1990, and it's like, maybe $70, and you're like, oh, 70, that's really cheap. But how much were people making in 1995 or 1990, right? So it's kind of relative, and it's going to be kind of interesting going forward with the breaking. And do you guys think that certain state legislatures are going to get involved to regulate it?
I don't think so. No. I will add
Complicated.
to. I'll give you a little snippet of my video for tomorrow, which
Oh,
it's going to kind of tie into the gambling. Uh, it's one of them things, and we're all older in years, and we have to keep this in mind that sometimes we got to go through tough lessons the hard way. Sometimes that's the only way we learn. And I can think back when I was 25, 30, 35 years old in the hobby. Man, you weren't going to tell me nothing. You know,
oh, oh.
I'm young, I'm cocky, I got all the answers, I got this, you know.
Mhm.
But to my own demise, you know, and it's one of them things where yeah, I had an old timer maybe whispering in my ear, kind of giving me some guidance, but it's one of them things where I refuse to listen. And you're just old, you don't know what you're talking about. Don't worry about me, I got this. And it's at least that was my attitude. But sometimes we got to just like even with my own kids, I'm lecturing certain lessons, life lessons, certain principles over and over and over again, and they just refuse to listen or to heed my advice. And then it's at some point I just got to let them go and just let them figure out life for themselves, and just hopefully when they do trip up and make that mistake, then I can come in and kind of guide them, and maybe hopefully they'll listen then. You know what I mean? But I think that's the gambling, the excitement that's around it, generated behind it. It's the old timers. It's a little too much, too late for us to kind of teach the lessons now, and just let them figure it out, man. They'll figure it out, and I just hopefully they don't leave the hobby, and if they do, maybe they'll come back some other time. You know, I don't know.
So here's the question: really, is like, where do you see your collecting in 10 years, or what's your goal? Do you see a paradigm shift for you? Either one, both. Sorry, Bobby.
Uh, yeah, Victor, go first. I'll go after you.
Oh wow, where do I see my collecting in 10
There's
years?
that day that we kind of can sit back and go, yeah, you know,
Yeah,
you got your basement,
yeah,
so that was a dream come true.
yeah, yeah,
Then you have to readjust your paradigm of where you want to be in another 5, 10, 15, 20 years, whatever, however
yeah.
long we're going to live, however, whatever, you know. Do you see yourself getting into something new, something different? Do you see staying on the same path?
You know, I have a lot of collecting desires. I wish I can go in 100 different directions, but I can't because I
Sure.
just can't afford it. So I have to really pick and choose how I'm going to spend my hobby dollars. And so that's what. And if it was up to me, if I had an open wallet, look out! I'd have my creativity would just run wild when it
Video
comes to collecting.
games, yeah.
But unfortunately, I can't. I like what I'm doing now. I like collecting rookie card runs of certain players. and that's what I see myself continue doing is my rookie cards of Hall of Famers, rookie cards of players I enjoy watching, and like for example, I don't do like all vintage, but I do some vintage, like the post-war Hall of Fame rookie card set registry. There's like over 100 cards in it. Love that set registry. I would love to do the football one at some point,
Very
but
cool.
I want to
Yeah.
work on the baseball one first. And if I ever complete it, then I'll move over to the football one.
But the hobby is more than just cards. You do other stuff in the hobby.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
What's your foresight to what you're going to do in another 10 years? Are you on that path right now? Like sometimes we don't plan to see what happens and it just kind of happens, but it happens by default because you put yourself on the right road. So
Yeah. I have as you know personally that, but I'm unwilling to share right now. But I have a lot of
Sure.
hobby plans for the future, and that I'm going to be really excited to reveal to the hobby. And I'm hoping within 10 years,
Yeah.
I'll have it completed.
Oh, I hope so. I know you will. Anyway, and Ryan, what about you?
So I never know what's gonna happen. I mean, first off, I didn't even know up until 2021 that I'd be doing podcasts or anything like this. So you really never know in which direction your life is gonna lead. Um, and
But where do you like
uh,
to see yourself? Where would you like to
where-
see yourself at that point? Yeah.
so um, I kind of think that what I would like to do is kind of slowly phase out of cards and go directly into writing books. But I don't think that first off, I don't think that I'm ever going to be able to quit cards. It's like my dad saying he's going to quit smoking. Like that never happened. And for me personally, I mean, not the smoking because I've never smoked, although I know a lot about tobacco, more so than I think I should. But
Due to the
uh,
hobby.
yeah, due to the hobby, and my dad smoking 4 packs a day, so like, um, I think that I'm gonna try to make that transition, because I really do like writing. I've always been a writer for 3 decades. And so
So in that writing, where do you see yourself with that writing to be put yourself? Do you want a bunch of books? Or you're looking to educate? You're looking to
yeah,
write for, yeah, all that. Okay.
yeah, I think I see myself if yeah, I could definitely see myself as kind of a teacher. I mean, I'll give you the information. It's up to you to read it. But I also remember too when I was first getting into the vintage hobby, I really didn't have anybody to fall back on to say, hey, listen, like this is what not to do and here's what to do and that came a little bit later. But I I want to try to help other people try to avoid the things that because I really did screw up quite a bit when I was a teenager getting into this stuff. And I mean, teenagers screwed up all the time. And, you know, I hate to admit this, but the only reason why I got my driver's license was so I could go to card auctions. And it wasn't for the women because I wasn't getting any of those because I had a crappy 1984 Oldsmobile Shipwalk Supreme. So, so
Kids don't even have cars today, man.
I
You're doing all right.
yeah. So I don't know about writing horror. I probably could. Opening up 1989 tops that could be horror. So.
Ryan, you haven't written a book yet, man?
So I'm almost done with. I was writing a book on the history of American Tobacco Company and the T206. followed by the T205 and T207. So those are one of those is almost done. I'm hoping before I go to the national. It's tough writing a book.
Hey, you got,
Yeah,
I've been to your website and I've read some of your articles. You got like 3, 4 books already on your website.
I do. I
Nice.
do. I was going to write a book on alien abductions as well, something completely different.
Why not?
Yeah. So I exactly right. I mean, how many of those have been out there? But the information is out there in the hobby. Is just in all different directions. It's not. It's it's not all together. And what I thought would be really cool was like uh, doing a book on how the hobby started, who started it, why,
Yeah,
and what
that is a book.
we learned. Yeah,
That is the book. The book that would be the hobby book. Yeah. Yeah. And we don't want to ever really be teachers. We just want to be educators. We want to
yeah.
information.
Because I
We want
hated
to
my
tell people what to
teachers.
do.
Yeah,
Yeah, so teachers are out, educators are in. So we're good there. So all your teachers, gone. So we're good. So that's what all I want to do going forward. And I'll answer my own question is just, I see myself just keep adding information and keep going forward, adding to the app, educating the public into more things about collectibles. The cards are basically done for the most part. You know, like someone says, "Oh yeah, you don't do much with it." I said, "Yeah, I've satisfied the cards a long time ago. Companies, all the different things, we're fine there. But the other stuff, yeah, and there's some crucial things there. So I really want to do more into that. Just keep adding stuff, and I'll be doing it for the next 5-10 years, anyways. Just adding to the app because I still have that much hockey information to go, and I can't imagine how someone could do baseball or football. It'd be need a group source of thousands of people, and maybe that would be a thing too for someone to start. Which they
yeah,
kind of have with TC Trading Card Database, right? It's the people putting the information in, so it is kind of a good source in that sense. Except it's just pictures of things.
there,
There's no write-ups, really, nothing really to it.
No.
yeah. There's a lot of information that I think still needs to be added to the history of the hobby and the cards themselves. And one of the things I really love about the hobby is that uh, I've never. There's a lot of things that I've never seen. And particularly, I showed you this card right here. So this is Count Basie, and
Uh-huh.
I I grew up with people who grew up in Haight Ashbury in the 1960s and knew all the musicians of the day, and so I I um I wanted to find if those people had cards out there, and what can I learn from them, and from the it's just not the cards, it's the manufacturers,
Yeah.
and a lot of people kind of tend to forget about this aspect of the hobby is what makes a card rare, and it could be all sorts of factors that we may never really think about, like you know every once in a while I hear about the economy um, is really doing a number on the hobby or the collectors, but they never really tend to think about what the economy has done for to manufacturers, especially in the 1930s,
Uh-huh.
in the 1940s, and um, it's kind of funny that yeah, um, between 1900 and 1960 or 1970, the average lifespan of a company was about, I think it was about 60 or 70 years. Um,
Wow.
and now it's like 20 years, if that, the average lifespan of a
Before they're bought
company.
out, you mean,
Yeah, or they just
or dissolved,
go into bankruptcy or dissolve,
winding
right? Or
up?
close their doors. Yeah, and when I was doing research on the Gaudi Gum Company, um, does anybody know when that company went out of business, shut its doors? I'll give you a hint. it happened during JFK's time in office,
Mm.
and
1962.
yeah,
Sorry.
in November. And the thing
I was going
is,
to say November. Yeah.
yeah, and but the thing is that the guys who actually collected Gaudis in the 1930s, when they were kids, when they were doing research on Gaudi, they had no idea. They had no idea. And what's going to be kind of fascinating today, I think, is that in 20, 30, 40, even 50 years, um, all the research that's going to be needed for today's hobby, because I you know I think we're just going to go in circles again in the research
And
department here.
AI is not going to really solve it either. And a lot of people think AI it'll be a help, yes, but I think it's. I looked up something on Google, and every time you do Google, it gives an AI kind of breakdown, and the information was just wrong, just wrong. It's just so what they're doing is pulling information from every website, and the good or bad, and it's put out there. So I think we're going to have a little miscommunication with AI, thinking that it's going to solve everything or what have you. So
I noticed that in fact I was watching something on UFOs the other day, and one of the things I've noticed in that field is that UFO researchers, or UAI or whatever, I'll just say UFO.
move
Those
on.
researchers move, yeah. So those researchers are noticing that certain key people in that field, they're being taken off of Wikipedia. They're being erased completely, and um, if AI is going directly towards Wikipedia, and then that's a problem, because you don't know if the information in Wikipedia is correct. And the other thing too is when I've done videos, I did a video on UFOs on a particular case from, when was it, Australia, where a pilot ended up missing after he basically saw a UFO, and Panini actually did a card of this guy,
Hmm.
which is really strange to me. I was like, what? Like, that doesn't. Why would that be?
Hmm.
Um, and so after I did the video, I found a little thing on Wikipedia below my video, and I thought it was just like, why? I don't understand, like, why that would be the case. And then I think also I did another video too on Billy the Kid, and then again I saw Wikipedia had, or somebody had inserted, I think it's YouTube inserted a Wikipedia page right below my video on Billy the Kid. So I think you're right that we're going to have some serious issues with AI. Obviously, but it's getting a little harder to tell what is real and what is not.
Hmm.
You know.
Yeah, true enough. And will people's you know um, be protected from them taking that information from anybody who starts whatever, like my app that's behind a paywall. you know are they going to have access somehow? Are they going to get that smart? I don't know. It's going to be an interesting
Yeah,
time in the future for sure.
yeah, I
And then
mean,
you're going to ask Wikipedia, what card should I collect? Which card would be the best investment? That's the next thing, because it's going to tell you all the sum of all the parts that everybody talks about, all the videos, all the you know so it's going to be an interesting thing going forward. What do you
well,
think about that?
um, yeah. So actually, I have a question for Victor when it comes to rookie cards. So because there are so many rookie cards of players today. If I'm a new, say I'm a new collector of modern cards, how do I know which card to go after? I mean, I've been out of the game now, the modern game, for 30 years, so I know really nothing about the players of today.
Yeah. So
Is that Count Basie's rookie card?
what's that?
You know,
Is that Count Basie's rookie
yeah,
card? Come on, Victor, tell us.
yeah.
You ever want to go there?
Yeah. I would say it's one of them things where you can be a sheep and follow what everyone else is doing, and that's just which one is selling the most, which one has the nicest image, and everybody gravitates towards that. And or you can get depending on what you want to do, you can go for rarity and get the one with the lowest serial number that always seems to get everybody excited. But just depending on what kind of collector you are, you got to figure out what kind of collector you are. For me, I would recommend the true rookie card. And any particular player today has an average of about 3,000 cards made their rookie season. And everybody wants to say that they're rookie cards, but I beg to differ. So what we got to do is develop a process to filter that fluff, to figure out which ones truly line up with historical values, which ones are truly licensed. And so that's how come I've kind of resurrected and created an entirely new system that kind of helps us filter through all that fluff. And you can determine then which ones truly fall under historical guidelines, which ones are truly the rookie cards, because there's a lot of stuff out there that isn't. And then from there, you're going to be left with about, I'm going to narrow that list from 3,000. I'm going to narrow it down to probably 40. And then you can choose from there which one you like. And then you can figure out which, if you like parallels, if you like rarity, scarcity, which a lot of people do. Me personally, I do not. But maybe get a parallel card of that true rookie card. If you like Panini Prism, get there's like 75 tiers of parallels that you can choose from. Whatever lines up with your wallet, I would say do that. And that would be my advice for somebody on how to choose it.
So what about the one of ones and the parallels? I get a little confused about this kind of stuff. And then again, the rookie cards of players who played prior to, say, Marvin Miller in like 1968, where he had all these licenses lined up with tops and all the is it a gray area there?
The gray area to me is when we try to mix modern day rules and try to apply them to older cards. I have a huge respect for the history of what's already been established as the rookie card within the hobby, because history shows us that collectors, the hobby has really been the one that really chooses which card is the key card of any one particular player. So then, stuff that really is vintage, I don't try to rewrite the rules for that era. And so whatever the hobby decided back then is sufficed for me. I don't like to apply modern day rules into older cards. It's not fair. But then you have, the pre-war era, which has never really historically been, that's kind of been the true wild west. It's really hard to determine a true rookie card in the pre-war era, because so much of this stuff was homemade by a photographer who took a picture and created a card in his basement, and nothing was manufactured by a company or by a licensed company or that sort of thing. Everything was kind of like homemade. So it's really hard to determine pre-war rookie cards. Not impossible, but you can kind of go with what's been established, or you can just go by the first card that's ever been produced of that player. Seems to be pretty popular for pre-war. But yeah, I don't like to mess around with vintage and pre-war because that stuff's already been established.
Yeah.
Yeah, just going forward,
Bobby,
having rookie year is really important. That
Yeah.
allocation to fend off against the rookie card, you got the rookie year card.
Yeah.
And I think that satisfies most of that at that point.
Yeah. It really helpful even with for like ultra modern cards. I mean,
That's
distinguishing
exactly what
a
I'm
true
talking
rookie
about.
card versus a rookie year card. And
It's still, you can call it rookie year. It's just not rookie card. But,
yeah.
no rules.
There's
no rules.
But Brandon, he's saying here something really interesting to me about intangible emotions, and that's the one thing I think really drives the hobby is emotion.
Sure.
Well, and obviously money too, which
Probably one of the main factors.
because like a lot of the stuff for me personally, like when I'm buying a card, it's normally someone that I've known or done business with, and so like Monty Irvin, like that 52 tops Monty Irvin. Now I'm not a big fan of 52 tops, and maybe if you don't see me in the future, it's because somebody shot me over that comment. But you know, uh, um, one of the things like I really enjoy doing is collecting cards of players who either fought in World War II or Korea, or cards of players that I knew in some form or fashion. And that's
I like that theme-based collecting. I think it's important that everybody has something like that in their purview of what they collect.
Yeah, and you really do have to have a focused goal. Yeah. Although I do agree with you, Bobby. Victor needs to get some cards in his place there and fill it up a little bit. But
I think more trinkets would be more appropriate. But just saying.
Yeah, there's some empty wall space there.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Yeah,
and floor space.
Yeah. Any final thoughts do you guys have?
No, I think gambling is going to be in the hobby for forever. It's just a matter of when we talk to people about the hobby, we want to really focus, and especially if you're online doing a lot of stuff that you put forward, that you have to watch yourself around getting too involved into the gambling aspect of breaking boxes. Not that you shouldn't break a box. I'm just saying it's just know your limitations. It can hurt you, but it can
and
help you
know who to trust as well, and know, because not everybody
part too. Yeah, of course.
Yeah. I won't name specific names, but not everybody in the hobby is going to be on your side, especially when it comes to money. Victor, any final thoughts with you?
Yeah, to me, man, it's I am echoing the sentiments that Bobby said. I think it's here, it's been here, and I don't think it's going anywhere. I think as old timers, we need to. I hate to even say, but maybe accept that fact that that's just how it is today, and we need to adapt and kind of find a lane. And whenever we have an opportunity to teach or educate somebody on the dangers of sports cards and gambling and finances, we should use our platforms and use our influence to perhaps caution those to be careful. That's all we can
and
really
as
do.
stewards, that's our innate job to do that.
Yeah,
we need to do that. So
yeah, and I agree with your sentiments, and I also agree with Dan the Card Man as well. And I did listen to what he had to say, and Neo as well on this subject, and Dustin. So I'm in agreement there, and it's for me uh, because I've been in the hobby for such a long time, and I've always been there in some form or fashion. That it's kind of difficult to see what's going on today with modern collectors, uh, and I really want to say, hey, listen, um, be careful, but at the same time too, sometimes you really need to kind of like learn on your own,
Mhm.
and you're right. Um, when I was a kid, I thought I knew everything. Just ask me. You know, and and I could tell you, right? And I never really listened to my father until after he passed on, and then like I stepped back and said, "Hey, my dad was right about 90% of what he was talking about." Um,
Mhm.
and like I don't have all the answers, and that's a good thing, and that's what keeps me in the hobby as well, and it keeps me wanting to do research on this stuff. So
I like to sum mine up with a quick thing is that since the first day I came back into the hobby, I have that passion right to today and almost every day. If you choose your right path that you go on, you're going to have a wonderful journey. Just don't set
yeah,
any limitations on where you want to stop or where you want to see yourself and keep going. And that's where, I'm just going to keep researching and finding new stuff and keep on my treasure hunts and enjoy the hobby and pick up things that I find unusual, unique, rare. Find any more information on companies that I didn't know, as you're doing with your books and stuff. So I think it's a great hobby, and if you focus on the right things, you don't even have to think about the gambling aspect of it.
yeah. And Victor, for your book, you want to plug that? Where can we find that?
Right
Yeah,
here, I got it
couple
right here.
places. Yeah, right
Yeah,
there.
I got mine too.
That's the cover of it. Available on Amazon.
I
Or
don't have a copy. Um,
Oh my god!
can I get an autographed copy somewhere?
you sure can. You can get it direct through me.
Okay.
On my videos, I have a link in the show notes that can take you direct to my PayPal page, and I'll ship it out to you.
Done deal.
I got an auto pen in mine. Just
Oh man. All right, guys, we're
great
gonna leave it
discussion,
there.
guys.
Thanks, everybody. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate it. This was
Thanks,
fun.
Brendan. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Brendan.
Okay,
Everybody.
gentlemen.
All right. Have a good
Thanks for
one.
having me.
Bye.